Okay, so that's Object Painter. If I go, so again, I go to High in 3D. I've got a free login. I think you probably need a login for most of the downloads. I've got this other script that I've used, which is called the Free FX Transform Randomizer. So in this one it says put this script in your Python path directory. Now, I think in this case I tried the documents Maya 2017 scripts folder, but it didn't like it. So I did a little bit of research. I had to go to C drive, program files, Autodesk. In this case I'm using Maya 2017, so 2017, and then Python. So I have that script in here. It's the fx underscore transform randomizer dot python, and it says to run the script simply you have to copy this and paste it, right? So I did that in Maya. So again, back to that script window, but instead of loading it under the Mel tab, there's a Python tab, right? So we can go Python. I'll just paste that in, and then you can hit the execute command and it opens up the tool. And it's the same idea. You can paste the script in and save it to a shelf. So you go File, Save Script to Shelf. I've already done that. I called the tool Rando, because why not? So let me just create a new scene here. So yesterday I used the example of books. I'm going to maybe use the example again. So I'm going to just create a book here. Let's do 15 by 10 and a depth of 2. Let's do, yeah, maybe 20, I guess, in here instead. 20? There we go. And a depth of like 2. That's okay. So I'm very quickly going to edit this. So I'm going to grab this edge and this edge. Bevel this edge. Again, if I'm going to have a lot of books, I want to be careful not to necessarily add too much in the way of mesh, but enough so that I get enough information. I'm going to go to face mode and grab these 3 faces. First I'll do an extrude with an offset. By the way, if you notice it keeps coming back with 16 divisions. I'm going to just escape this, maybe undo this a bit. If you want to change that, next time you go into the tool, go to the settings. And it's the last setting that was used actually in the options part of the tool. So if I start with that, that'll now be my default. So I'm going to leave it as this and then do an offset. Okay, and then I'll grab those same faces again. Control E to extrude one more time. And this time I'll do a thickness. So it's going to pull that in. So we get a little bit of that sort of trim in the book, right? Or that sense of a hardcover, let's say. Okay, so there's a few ways we can go about unwrapping this, because again, this will be mass duplicated, especially if you've got a big library. So I've intentionally kind of screwed you guys. I should tell you, your 6 props are probably not unwrapped. You will now have to go and unwrap them. It's sort of a valuable lesson. Before you mass duplicate things, before you merge stuff into a scene, you do want to try to unwrap every piece that you have. So in some cases, if you do have one prop and it's got multiple little rivets, bolts, whatever it might be, you can easily delete those, unwrap the one piece, and reduplicate it again, right? Redo a duplicate special, redo that stuff so it carries the unwrap with it. In this case, I'm just taking a book and unwrapping it before I duplicate in the scene. So in this case, I have kind of a couple of cheap methods that I use. The main thing is to get some sort of UVs into this object. Now, since it was started from a cube, it actually, and it's not too far removed from a cube, it still has a lot of its UVs there. So I could try to just go to layout maybe. It's not great. And it's also not particularly accurate, but yeah, what I'll often do is just kind of throw one big quick UV on the whole thing. And in this case, this is kind of a flat object, so I could either go automatic. And you see automatic grabs a snapshot from 6 sides, kind of like a box almost. It unwraps it and flattens it out. So that's really quick and easy. If it were a flatter surface, I might just go to UV planar, right? If it were more round or cylindrical, I'd go to cylindrical or spherical, depending on the situation. And next up, what I might do, let's just take a look at this. Because this is split. A lot of times it's sometimes easier to texture these things when they're connected together. I'm okay with this though. I think it's mostly fine. I just got to figure out what those 2 pieces are. I guess from in here, right? Yeah. And, you know, I may find a way as well. I think in this case I may want to break off these faces, so I'm going to shift right click and go to create UV shell. And I'll go to face mode or shell mode. Try another layout with these just to kind of use more of the space, right? By the way, this is packed extremely tight. There's almost like no gap between these pieces. So what I usually do, again, my defaults need a bit of work. I will go to modify layout, and I'm going to the options for layout. So inside of layout, again, I typically work a lot of my textures in 4K, so I will set the packing resolution of 4096. If you want objects to be proportional to each other so that they don't have bigger checkers in one spot and smaller checkers in another, you have to turn on what's called shell prescaling, and you want to say preserve 3D ratios, right? That's a big if. Now you may also want to try to auto rotate. Sometimes this works great, sometimes not. So I'm going to leave it off for now because I think the rotation of all the pieces is nice and clean. I don't want to mess with it. Texture map size, I'm going to set to 4K. Shell padding, so this is actually the gap between shells. I often will do like 16 pixels wide, and you want a border padding as well, so you don't want those UVs to rest exactly along the tile space, which is this workspace here, right? We don't want to kind of have that rest there. So I usually do, you know, or I could do 20 and 20 as well. As long as it's consistent and the same, I usually prefer that, and then I'll hit layout UVs. So what's great about this is that if this is your preferred setting, every time you go back to layout now, this button, at least during this session, it'll use the same sort of settings. So I won't have to go back and reset those. You know, one thing I might do is to rotate these guys. So let's see. Yeah, I'll rotate this. I'm going to turn on snapping, by the way, yeah, let's see if this will work. Maybe not for moving here. Okay. So I'll rotate these guys, and then I'll position them. So I'll just try to sort of pack in as much as I can. I don't want to scale these off of each other. Let's grab that. So my main point here is to try to optimize. I never want to waste space because that's wasted pixels, and the larger the the larger the texture, the bigger the waste, right? So we want to try to make sure we use as much of the space as possible. So yeah, let's just kind of center this guy. So now I'm scaling out of proportion, but I am optimizing more of the space, right? So essentially more of the book cover is going to get more of that texture space, which is ideal. Okay, so that's good. And we can check this if we, let's go back to the UV editor for a second. All right, hit the little checker button there, and you see everything's pretty clean, right? Okay, so next up, I'm going to duplicate this a bunch. Edit duplicate special. Okay, it's too much in that direction. Let's go in this direction, maybe 5 or 10 units. I'm going to make just like 7 or 8 copies, nothing too complex here. Oops, wrong axis, there we go. So there's our batch of books. And what I'm going to do is go to, again, I've got my modeling tools. I've got the script loaded, the randomizer. So I'm going to hit random. And I can do random scale. So I can do random scale. Right now it's at 2%. So it's either, 2 times. So it'll go randomly from 100% to 200%. Now you may want to make that smaller. So let's say random XYZ, random thicknesses, random heights, and random widths. So they're not all the same book now, right? So that's a really, really fast and efficient way to generate, variation in your scene. I'm going to show you one last trick with this. So if we take all this, I'm going to rotate this. Let's double click and set this to the manipulator for the rotation tool. rotate this. I'm going to place this above ground here. You know, we can try to kind of simulate the books falling and resting into a pile, let's say. So if you want piles of debris, piles of books, piles of different objects, I'm going to randomize again, but I'm going to randomize rotation. So they're all kind of off a little bit. Let's increase this to maybe like 60 degrees, random XYZ. It's not too bad. Random position. So you can random translate by 5 units. So I usually will do this at the beginning of a project. That's a long, skinny book. It's very weird. Anyways, yeah, so I'll get these kind of like arranged sort of like this. And what I'll do, just to make sure, I'm going to go edit, delete by history. I'm going to go modify, freeze transforms. I'm going to create a simple plane. Now I could create a plane or a bookshelf. In this case, I'll just start with a plane. Again, I've scaled it, so I'm going to go delete by history. And if we switch over to effects, right, I'm going to go to the effects toolkit. There's fields and solvers, fields and solvers. So with the ground selected, I'm going to actually set this to be what's known as a passive rigid body. Again, we can go to the options, but I'll come back to this in a little bit. So that's a passive rigid body. Let me actually move these guys up a little bit. And again, I'll go to modify, freeze transform, just to reset that. So I'll go to, with those books selected, I'll go back to fields and solvers. Active rigid body. I'm going to go into the settings because I know I usually want to change the settings here. I'm going to make these high friction objects. So that basically means that they're going to have a very high, instead of a low dynamic and static friction. What static friction means is basically how much it grips its other objects when it's not really in motion. And dynamic is when it's in motion, how much does it grab other objects. And we can probably also turn down its bounciness because I want to create a nice kind of pile of books, right? So I'm going to turn down the bounciness very, very low. And then I'll hit create. So each one of these objects will become what's known as a rigid body. Lastly, I need to grab everything in the scene, go back to fields and solvers, and hit gravity. Now if I hit the play button, we get a simulation. Pile of books. All right. Now let me increase the frame count to 5,000. I'm going to crank up my timeline. Okay. And this is a way we can create these kind of nice, organic feeling, chaotic piles of objects in a room. Make it feel lived in, make it feel kind of realistic, right? And eventually they'll settle. Eventually. You know, one thing you can do is increase the power of the gravity. You can do all sorts of stuff in that way to sort of cheat. These books are really bouncy, eh? But imagine, I mean, have you ever dropped a stack of books or a stack of, you know, sometimes these things will flop around and fly all over the place and roll, right? Corner over corner, they'll flip sometimes. So part of this too, keep in mind, is the bounciness. Let me go back here. Part of this is actually the bounciness setting of the plane itself, right? So I can also make this have, again, you can find this in either the attribute or channel editor. So if we go down here, bounciness, again, make it like 0. Friction, I'll increase the friction, and static and dynamic. And if you reset your timeline, if we go back to the beginning and hit play, it should start a new simulation. Hopefully it won't crash. Right now it looks like it's kind of threatening to. Oh, there we go. So I'll let this thing play. Yeah, to kind of establish this, I believe we need to go to, where is it? Animation, key, and then I believe we can do, what's it called? Create, yeah, bake animation. So when you've got simulation data, you actually want to bake it out from here. So you can let it run through the timeline, right, and just have it kind of bake out all this animation. And then I would just delete all the animated keys up until the last frame where it settles and it's where you want it to be. Right, so that's kind of a way to get those objects. So you can do the same thing roughly if you put the books in a row, have them slightly above a shelf, and then let them drop and maybe fall onto each other and lean on each other. That's kind of a good way to do it. Okay, so once if I hit escape, I guess, or yeah, it'll crank through the whole timeline here. So you see all the keys, right? Tons and tons of keys. So I'll just delete those keys. Okay. Yeah, there's also, by the way, there's still like this gravity thing in here as well. So I may just delete the gravity so that we don't have the physics interaction. Yeah, I'll have to copy that key. Anyway, so that's the basic idea behind that. I'm going to open up a scene with the... I think I've got another scene with the books here. So, oh, yeah, here they are lined up. So again, I'll sort of repeat this process one more time, just more with the books kind of landing on the shelves, right? Duplicate special. Let's make these a little closer together, like 5 units apart, and we'll make a few more of these books. Go back. So you guys see how fast this is, right? Once you start kind of piling simple things on top of each other, it really accelerates your ability to create and generate objects. By the way, before duplicate special, it's something I should have mentioned earlier as well. A lot of times I actually like to take the pivots and drop them to the very bottom of the object. So I'll just maybe do this in a left view. I'll explain why in a second, but so let's say you are putting these on a shelf. If you don't want to do the physics simulation, this is kind of a good cheat. So yeah, let's get back into object mode. Back in perspective, and I'll go back to duplicate special. Okay. By the way, I just used the shortcut key there, Control-Shift-D to duplicate special. Randomize, and I've got my settings from last time, randomize X, Y, Z, Y, Z. And you see they're all still in that same level. So that's why I like the pivot at the bottom. So it's scaling from the bottom up, right? So if I wanted to just put these on a shelf, now I can kind of do a random, that's a random translate. I want to do random rotate, not in that axis. Maybe random Y, no, random X. It's not bad, but I may drop this down to like 15 degrees. Right, so now you can get them kind of leaning on each other a little bit, right? And if I build a shelf, so I'll do a really quick, cheap shelf here. This is odd. My cube, for some reason, seems like it's on an angle. That's really strange. Alright. So I'll create my basic shelf. Yeah, maybe make it a little less wide. Take all these books and move them roughly into position here. Yeah, scale this a little bit wider. Go to face mode. Control E, which is an extrusion shortcut. Grab these guys. Control E, right? Pull this up. Again, I'm just doing this so I can kind of keep the shelves, the books on the shelf if I do simulate. So again, edit, delete by history. Modify freeze transforms. Grab all these guys. Delete their history. Generally speaking, when it comes to simulations and stuff like this, or anything to do with Maya, your mesh needs to be clean, needs to kind of look like it's in a neutral position. So I'm going to repeat this process one last time. Effects, I'll go a little quicker as well. Create rigid, active rigid body. Again, crank the friction, reduce the bounciness, hit create. grab the shelf, fields and solvers, create passive rigid body. Again, I think the settings are about the same, so that's good. Grab everything and create a field solver. So that basically means the gravity will affect everything in the scene. Again, I'll maybe crank my frames to like 3,000 or something. Hopefully it won't need longer than that to simulate, so try this out. Boop, boop, boop. There they go. So, right, and that feels lived in. It feels organic, right? So I find these techniques and ideas are super useful. So let's say you've got a valley, you've got a forest, you got a bunch of big and small rocks. Make those rocks, right? Float them in the air, give them random rotations and orientations, random scales. You know, I usually start with a variation of 5 or 6 for me. It's like a minimum. And actually, a lot of cases, it's a maximum. I hardly had to go above that. So 5 or 6 boulders, 5 or 6 pebbles, 5 or 6 planks of wood for debris, right? 5 or 6 different chunks of objects. And you can litter a scene, populate a scene with these kind of lived-in pieces of mesh that ground the scene and make it feel more real and believable. So hopefully that'll help you guys in virtual worlds too, right? To flesh out the environment.